The pristine snow sparkled under the morning sun as I stood at the entrance of Pine Summit Lodge, watching my daughter Sarah teach her first ski class. At 16, she was already more accomplished than I'd been at twice her age. The students, mostly young children, followed her like ducklings as she demonstrated the snowplow position. My phone buzzed, another message from Mom. Emergency family meeting tonight. Your brother Thomas has a development proposal for the old Murphy property. Please come. I smiled knowingly. The old Murphy property was actually Pine Summit Lodge, which I'd purchased through my company Summit Ventures 6 months ago for $18.5 million. My family had no idea I was now the owner of the very property they planned to demolish for their luxury condo development. Miss Walker, my assistant manager Ben Chen, approached with a concerned look. The auditors found something unusual in the previous ownership records. You should see this. I followed him to the lodge's administrative office, where 3 accountants were examining stacks of documents. The lead auditor, Jennifer Mills, looked up as I entered. Miss Walker, we've uncovered some disturbing patterns in the property's history. There appears to be a series of manipulated property assessments dating back 3 years, all designed to devalue the lodge. Show me, I said, taking the folder she offered. The numbers told a story that made my stomach turn. Systematic undervaluation, deliberately skewed maintenance reports, and fabricated occupancy data, all pointing to one goal: forcing the Murphy family to sell at a fraction of the property's worth. There's more, Ben said quietly. We found these in the old storage room. He placed a stack of letters on my desk. They were from various local businesses and longtime lodge employees, all reporting pressure and threats from a development company, Walker Enterprises, my family's company. The truth hit me hard. This wasn't just about a property deal, it was about destroying a community institution. Now I understood why old Mr. Murphy had looked so defeated when he sold the lodge, and why my brother was so confident about his development plans. Through the office window, I watched Sarah leading her students down the beginner slope. This place had been her sanctuary since the divorce 3 years ago, when my family had sided with my ex-husband, despite his infidelity. They'd never forgiven me for embarrassing the family by refusing to stay in a broken marriage. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Everyone's waiting. Where are you? I gathered the documents and headed to my car. The family estate was only 15 minutes away, though it felt like crossing into another world. Through the windows of the massive colonial house, I could see them all gathered in the living room. Mom, Dad, Thomas, his wife Victoria, and my younger sister Emma. Catherine, Mom rushed to hug me, her designer perfume overwhelming. You finally made it. Thomas has exciting news about the Murphy property. I took a seat by the fireplace, noticing how they'd positioned me apart from the others. Some family dynamics never changed. As you know, Thomas began, straightening his custom suit. The old ski lodge has been an eyesore for years. But I've secured all the necessary permits for Walker Enterprises to develop the property into Pine Summit Estates luxury condos with premium views. He projected renderings onto the wall. Modern glass and steel structures that would replace the historic lodge. Initial investment of $30 million, projected return of $150 million within 5 years. That's wonderful, darling. Victoria gushed. Mom wiped away proud tears. Dad nodded approvingly. Actually, I said calmly, there's something you should know about the property. What about it? Thomas's smile flickered. I placed my laptop on the coffee table and pulled up the property deed. Pine Summit Lodge was purchased 6 months ago by Summit Ventures, my company. The silence was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. Your company? What do you mean your company? Since when do you have a company? I held up my hand. After the divorce, while you were all shunning me, I built something of my own. Summit Ventures now owns 12 ski resorts across North America. And yes, we bought Pine Summit for considerably more than the Murphy family was originally offered. You had no right. Thomas stood up, face reddening. We've been planning this development for years. Planning it by deliberately devaluing the property and threatening local businesses. But truth of quas. It nising diases and to one termid sid. I opened the folder of documents. Would you like to explain these records? Thomas went pale. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. Mom started crying, but I couldn't tell if it was from shock or disappointment. I don't know what you're talking about. Thomas stammered. The auditors found everything, brother. Every manipulated assessment, every threat, every backroom deal. That's why you were so confident about getting the property because you'd spent years setting up its failure. Dad picked up one of the documents with trembling hands. Thomas, is this accurate? Of course not. She's lying. She's always been jealous of my success. The state attorney general has copies of everything. I cut in. They're very interested in property fraud on this scale, not to mention the environmental violations we discovered. Thomas lunged for the documents, but Ben and two security officers appeared in the doorway. Miss Walker then asked, should we escort him out? Not yet. I stood up. I came here to give you all a chance to do the right thing. Pine Summit will be restored and expanded, but as a ski lodge, one that serves the community, not just wealthy condo buyers. You can't do this to us, Thomas snarled. To the family. Family, I laughed without humor. Let's talk about family. 3 years ago, when my marriage fell apart, what did you do? You sided with James, even after his affairs came to light. You said I was selfish for not thinking about the family's reputation. So I left, built my own life, and now I'm protecting something that actually matters. I turned to my parents. Pine Summit has been teaching local kids to ski for 40 years. It's hosted school trips, charity events, and winter festivals. That's the kind of legacy worth preserving. And Thomas's development? Mom asked weakly. That depends on him. The authorities have the evidence. But if he comes clean, helps make this right, there might be a way forward. I looked at my brother. Your choice. Thomas slumped in his chair, the fight draining from him. How much do they know? Everything, including what really happened with the Murphy family's loans. Mom gasped. Dad turned away. They'd all known, I realized. They'd all been complicit in destroying a community landmark for profit. Then I called. Please show the investigators in. As 2 state investigators entered the room, I walked to the window. Below, snow was beginning to fall, adding another pristine layer to the winter landscape. You'll need to come with us, Mr. Walker, one investigator said to Thomas. Catherine, my father spoke for the first time in minutes. Save it, I said quietly. We've got work to do. Real work. The winter season is in full swing, and Pine Summit needs to show everyone what it can be when run with integrity. As they led Thomas away, Mom collapsed into Dad's arms. Victoria followed her husband, already calling their lawyer. Emma sat alone, looking lost, then appeared at my side. The expansion plans are ready for review. And Sarah's class just finished. She's asking about you. I nodded, turning away from the window. The past was done. Tomorrow was about rebuilding, about proving that success doesn't have to come at the cost of community. One more thing, Ben added. We found something else in storage. The original Pine Summit sign from 1978, when the Murphy family first opened it. I smiled. Have it restored. When we relaunch the expanded lodge, we'll hang it proudly, a reminder of what this place has always been about. As I drove back to the lodge, the snow was falling harder. Sarah was waiting outside, cheeks flushed from teaching. Mom, you won't believe how well my students did today. Even little Tommy managed a complete run without falling. I hugged her tightly, breathing in the crisp winter air that clung to her jacket. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. How would you feel about helping me design some new programs for the lodge? Her eyes lit up. Really? But I thought Uncle Thomas was going to. Change of plans. Pine Summit is staying exactly what it should be. A place where everyone can learn to love the mountains, not just those who can afford luxury condos. Sarah grinned. Good. I couldn't bear the thought of this place being torn down. It's like home. Looking at my daughter's happy face, at the familiar lodge behind her, at the snow-covered slopes where generations had learned to ski, I knew I'd made the right choice. Some things were worth more than money or family approval. Tomorrow would bring investigators, reporters, endless questions. But tonight, in the quiet of the falling snow, I could almost hear the echo of 40 years of laughter, of children's first successful runs, of community gatherings and holiday celebrations. I touched the old lodge's wooden walls. We're keeping you, I whispered. And this time we're doing it right. The morning after Thomas's arrest, Pine Summit Lodge became the center of a media storm.
His vans crowded the parking lot.
Reporters trudging through snow to shout questions. Inside, state investigators and forensic accountants filled the administrative offices, while environmental inspectors examined the property. I sat in my office reviewing the preliminary investigation report. The scope of Thomas's scheme was staggering. Nearly $12 million in fraudulent property devaluations, systematic harassment of local businesses, and environmental reports buried to hide protected wildlife habitats. Sarah burst in, her ski instructor jacket still dusted with snow. "Mom, is it true about Uncle Thomas trying to destroy the lodge?" I set down the report. "Yes, sweetheart, but we stopped it. Pine Summit is safe now. The other instructors are worried about their jobs. And my students' parents keep calling, asking if we're closing." Before I could respond, Ben entered with Detective Maria Rodriguez. "Miss Walker, we found something in the old bank records." The detective placed a file on my desk. "Your brother didn't act alone. The loan documents show a pattern of coordinated pressure from multiple banks, all with connections to Walker Enterprises. And there's evidence the Murphy family was specifically targeted." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Because," I said, remembering old Mr. Murphy's integrity. "They refused to sell when Thomas first approached them. They chose the community over profit." Ben's tablet chimed. "You need to see this. Your sister Emma is giving a press conference." On the screen, Emma stood before the lodge, snowflakes catching in her hair. I knew about the plan to devalue Pine Summit, but I stayed silent. I was wrong. Catherine tried to warn us years ago about Thomas's business practices, but we wouldn't listen. I'm here to make that right. She turned to face the cameras directly. "I'm providing the investigators with everything I know. And to my sister, I'm sorry. You saw the truth when we chose to look away." I switched off the tablet as Sarah touched my arm. "Mom, the ski patrol needs you. They found something on the north slope." The discovery was incredible. An old trail map from 1978, preserved in a weatherproof case. It showed dozens of unused trails, and features the Murphy family had planned but never developed. "This could double our skiable terrain," the patrol chief explained. "And look, they'd designed an entire teaching area for adaptive skiing, for people with disabilities. It was ahead of its time. Let's build it," I decided. "All of it. Pine Summit should be for everyone." Back in the lodge, I found my parents waiting in the lobby. They looked smaller somehow, less imposing than they had last night. "Catherine," Mom began. "We saw Emma's statement. She's right. We should have listened years ago. About Thomas, about James, about everything. We were wrong," Dad added. "Success isn't just about profit margins. Your grandfather understood that when he built Walker Enterprises, but somewhere along the way we forgot." I studied them, really looked at them, for the first time in years. They were older now, humbled by truths too long denied. "Pine Summit needs investors for the expansion," I said finally. "But real investors who believe in what this place means to the community. If you're interested, we can talk." "We'd like that," Dad said. "To be part of something honest again." A commotion outside drew our attention. Dozens of local residents had gathered. Small business owners, longtime lodge employees, families whose children had learned to ski here. Their spokesperson stepped forward. "We heard about the expansion plans. We want to help. This lodge, it's not just a business. It's the heart of our winter community." One by one, they offered support. Bloods local contractors willing to work at cost, ski shops offering equipment partnerships, families volunteering to help restore the historic trails. Mr. Murphy believed skiing shouldn't just be for the wealthy, I told them. It should be for anyone who loves the mountains. "We're going to honor that vision." Sarah, who'd been listening quietly, spoke up. "What about a scholarship program for kids who can't afford lessons?" "Excellent idea," I smiled. "Want to help design it?" The crowd's enthusiasm was infectious. Ben began organizing committees, directing people to different projects. My parents quietly joined a group, discussing the adaptive skiing program. That evening, I found a letter on my desk from Emma. "Dear Catherine, There's more you should know. I found Thomas's original plans. The condo development was just phase one. He was going to buy up all the small businesses around the lodge, force them out. He called it economic cleansing. I've given everything to Detective Rodriguez. Maybe it will help make things right. Love, Emma standing at my office window, watching night fall over the snowy slopes. I felt a deep sense of purpose. Ben knocked softly. The first expanded trail maps are ready for review, and Sarah's designed an amazing program for young instructors. Through the window, I could see Sarah leading a group of junior instructors, demonstrating teaching techniques. She moved with confidence, natural leadership flowing from her love of this place. Miss Walker, one of the investigators, appeared. We found something else. The Murphy family left a letter for whoever next owned the lodge. The envelope was old, the paper yellowed. Inside was a simple message. To Pine Summit's next guardian. This place isn't just about skiing. It's about community, about giving everyone a chance to find their strength on the mountain. We hope you'll remember that. The real treasure of Pine Summit isn't in its property value. It's in the smiles of children making their first turns, in families building memories, in a community coming together in winter's embrace. Take care of our dream. The Murphy family. I wiped away tears as Sarah came in, her cheeks flushed from the cold. Mom, the night skiing lights are ready. Want to take a run? Under the stars, Sarah and I glided down the freshly groomed slopes. The lodge below glowed warmly, and I could hear laughter drifting up from the beginners area, where evening lessons were still running. You know, Sarah said as we paused halfway down, I always loved this place. But now knowing we saved it, knowing what it means to so many people, it feels even more special. I hugged her, both of us looking down at our lodge, our community, our future. Mr. Murphy was right, I said. The real value isn't in the property, it's in what we choose to do with it. The snow began falling again, adding fresh powder to tomorrow's possibilities. Pine Summit was more than saved. It was reborn, ready to welcome new generations to the magic of winter. As we skied down to join the evening lessons, I knew that some legacies aren't built on profit margins and luxury developments. They're built on snow and smiles, on open arms and open slopes, on the simple truth that the best investments are the ones that lift an entire community. The night sky sparkled above Pine Summit Lodge, promising many more winters of laughter, learning and love of the mountains. 6 months after Thomas's arrest, Pine Summit Lodge was transformed. The expanded trails were open, the adaptive skiing center was thriving, and the historic lodge had been lovingly restored while keeping its rustic charm. But today's event was special. The grand reopening celebration. I stood on the deck, watching hundreds of community members gather in the fresh morning snow. The restored 1978 sign gleamed above the entrance, and beside it hung a new plaque, Everyone's Mountain. Sarah, now the head of our youth programs at 17, adjusted her instructor's jacket nervously. Big crowd, she whispered. They're here for you too, I reminded her. Your scholarship program has already helped 50 kids learn to ski. Before she could respond, Detective Rodriguez approached. Miss Walker, the verdict's in. Thomas has been sentenced to 15 years. The evidence Emma provided about the broader development scheme was crucial. The news should have brought satisfaction, but I felt only sadness for what greed had done to our family. Mom and Dad, standing quietly at the edge of the crowd, looked similarly conflicted. Emma had come too, no longer the polished socialite, but dressed practically in ski gear. She'd spent the past months working with investigators and helping local businesses recover from Thomas's pressure tactics. Ready? Ben asked, handing me the microphone. I stepped forward to address the gathering. 42 years ago, the Murphy family opened Pine Summit Lodge, with a simple belief that the joy of skiing should be for everyone. Today we rededicate ourselves to that vision. The crowd applauded as Sarah unveiled the new trail map, showing the expanded terrain and specially designed teaching areas. But this isn't just about skiing, I continued. It's about community. Every person who learned to ski here, every family that built memories on these slopes, every instructor who shared their love of the mountains. You are Pine Summit's true legacy. Mr. Murphy's grandson, now a ski patrol member, raised the ceremonial first chair flag. The lifts hummed to life, and the celebration began. Throughout the day, I watched the lodge's mission come alive. Children from the scholarship program took their first runs. Adaptive skiing instructors worked with veterans learning to ski again. Old-timers shared stories of the lodge's early days. Emma found me by the fireplace later. Thomas's wife is divorcing him, she said quietly. She knew about everything, helped him hide documents. They've both agreed to make full restitution. And you? I asked. Are you okay? She smiled sadly. Getting there. Teaching beginners it, healing somehow, helping people find their confidence on the snow. Sarah rushed up, excitement shining in her eyes. Mom, come quick. There's someone you need to meet. She led me to the adaptive center, where an elderly man sat in a wheelchair. I recognized him immediately from old photographs. Mr. Murphy, I breathed. Hello, Catherine. He smiled. I had to see it for myself. You've made it even better than we dreamed. Tears pricked my eyes. We found your letter, your vision. It guided everything we've done. I can see that. He gestured to the busy slopes. My grandfather believed mountains don't care about bank accounts or social status. They just ask for respect and love. You've honored that. Mom and Dad approached hesitantly. Dad spoke first. Mr. Murphy, we owe you an apology. What our family tried to do is in the past, Mr. Murphy finished. Look forward. Your daughter and granddaughter have shown the way. As if to emphasize his point, Sarah's voice came over the PA system, calling her young instructors for the afternoon lessons. I watched her lead them out, confident and capable, fully in her element. She's a natural leader, Mr. Murphy observed, just like her mother. The rest of the day passed in a blur of joyful activity. As sunset painted the slopes in gold, the community gathered again for a torchlight parade. An old Pine Summit tradition revived. I stood with Sarah at the top of the main run, watching the long line of skiers with torches wind down the mountain like a river of light. Mom, Sarah said softly, thanks for saving this place, not just for me, but for everyone. We saved it together, I corrected her. All of us. Below, the lodge glowed warmly against the darkening sky. Through the windows, I could see Emma teaching an evening class, Mom and Dad helping in the rental shop, Ben coordinating with the ski patrol. Mr. Murphy's words echoed in my mind. Mountains don't care about bank accounts or social status. They just ask for respect and love. Pine Summit had found both, along with something else. Redemption, not just for a lodge or a family, but for an entire community's faith in doing things right. As the last light faded, and the stars emerged above the slopes, I knew we'd written a new chapter in Pine Summit's story. Not an ending, but a beginning. One marked by fresh tracks and fresh snow, leading toward a future as boundless as the mountain itself. 1 year after Pine Summit's rebirth, I watched the sunrise paint the slopes in golden light. The lodge had just been named North America's most community-focused ski resort, but that wasn't why we were celebrating today. Sarah was teaching her last regular lesson, before taking on her new role as youth programs director. At 18, she'd grown into a leader who embodied everything Pine Summit stood for. Mom, she called, skiing up to the lodge. My students want to show you something. Her class of young skiers had created a hand-drawn thank you card, signed by hundreds of community members. To the Walker women, it read, for showing us that doing good is good business. Emma joined us, now our full-time adaptive sports coordinator. Thomas wrote to me, she said quietly. He's been following the lodge's success from prison, says he finally understands what real value means. The past year had brought changes no one could have predicted. Mom and Dad had sold Walker Enterprises, using the proceeds to establish a foundation funding skiing opportunities for underprivileged youth. They worked at the lodge now, Dad teaching beginners and Mom running the scholarship program. Miss Walker, Ben approached with Mr. Murphy, who'd become a regular visitor. The numbers for our first year are in. The report showed something remarkable. By focusing on community over luxury, Pine Summit had actually outperformed Thomas's projected condo development revenues. More importantly, we provided over 1,000 scholarship lessons, launched the region's largest adaptive skiing program, and created jobs for over 200 local residents. Not bad for a little ski lodge. Mr. Murphy smiled. Sarah gathered everyone for the morning meeting, standing confidently before the staff. Today marks 1 year since we chose a different path for Pine Summit. But our real success isn't in numbers, it's in every smile we've put on every face that thought the mountains weren't for them. I watched my daughter with pride as she outlined new initiatives, expanded night skiing programs, additional adaptive equipment, more local business partnerships. She'd found her calling here, just as I'd found mine. Later, as evening approached, our family gathered on the summit for a private moment. The valley stretched below, the lodge's warm lights twinkling against the snow. I was wrong about so many things, Mom said, taking my hand. Success isn't what we thought it was. Neither is family, Emma added, hugging Sarah. A light snow began to fall as we skied down together, making fresh tracks in perfect powder. The lodge welcomed us with warmth and laughter, the sound of lessons finishing, the smell of hot chocolate, the chatter of happy voices. Murphy waited by the fireplace. You know, he said, my grandfather used to say mountains teach us who we really are. Looks like Pine Summit taught your family the same lesson. Sarah hung up her instructor jacket, now emblazoned with youth programs director. She'd grown up here, found her strength here, and now would help shape its future. Ready for tomorrow? I asked her. She smiled, looking out at the snowy slopes where her journey began. More than ready. We've got fresh powder and fresh dreams waiting. Outside, the stars emerged above Pine Summit Lodge, watching over a place where community meant more than profit, where family meant more than blood, and where every set of tracks in the snow told a story of belonging. Some legacies, it turns out, are measured not in dollars but in the lives they touch. Pine Summit had found its true summit not at the top of the mountain, but in the hearts of those who called it home.